The shadow in the night. Beneath the luminescent glow of a crescent moon, Caleb stood frozen in his bedroom, the chilling sensation of being watched crawling up his spine. The curtains fluttered slightly, as though breathing with a life of their own, despite the night air being still. Every night for the past week, as the town clock struck midnight, that unsettling feeling seized him, an icy whisper against the nape of his neck. He lived in the old Harper house, perched on the edge of Willow Creek, where the town's darkest legends seemed to congregate. The house had been in his family for generations, a looming structure of stone and shadows, filled with the echoes of whispered secrets and too many locked doors. Tonight, Caleb decided, he would confront the source of his dread. Clad in his pajamas, he tiptoed across the creaky floorboards, wincing as they betrayed his every move with a groan. His hand trembled as he parted the curtains, half expecting to come face to face with whatever lurked beyond the glass. Nothing. The yard was bathed in silver moonlight, undisturbed and peaceful, contradicting the hammering of his heart. But as he stared out, trying to calm his racing pulse, a shadow darted across the far edge of the lawn, vanishing into the woods that bordered their property. Not just any shadow, a distinct, humanoid shape, moving with purpose. Fear twisted in his gut, but curiosity propelled him forward. Slipping on a pair of boots, Caleb grabbed the flashlight from his desk drawer and headed outside. The night air was unexpectedly cold, biting through his thin clothing as he made his way towards the woods. The forest bordering the Harper house was old, the trees towering and tangled, their branches clawing at the sky. As Caleb ventured deeper, the beam of his flashlight bobbed along the path, casting eerie shadows that danced just out of sight. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig underfoot, heightened his anxiety. He paused, listening. A soft, whispering voice seemed to call out from deeper within the woods. It was almost melodic, carried on the wind like a lullaby. Against his better judgment, he followed the sound, drawn by its haunting beauty and the nagging thought that it might be linked to the mysterious shadow. The deeper into the forest he went, the more intense the feeling of being watched became. It was no longer just a sensation, it was a certainty. The trees seemed to close in around him, their trunks warping into grotesque figures, their whispers more insistent. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and died, plunging him into darkness. Panic surged through Caleb as he frantically shook the device, trying to coax it back to life. In the suffocating blackness, the forest seemed to breathe around him, alive and watching. Then, just as suddenly, a dim light appeared ahead, a soft, glowing orb floating in the darkness. It flickered like a candle, beckoning him. With no other light to guide him, Caleb moved towards it, each step more hesitant than the last. The orb led him to a clearing he had never seen before, though he thought he knew every inch of these woods. In the center stood an ancient tree, its trunk wide and gnarled, the ground around it barren and scorched. The orb floated towards the tree and then disappeared into its trunk. As Caleb approached, the air grew thick with the scent of decay. The tree's bark was etched with symbols that seemed to writhe under his gaze, pulling him in. Mesmerized, he reached out to touch them, and the tree's hollow burst open, revealing a dark cavity. Inside, amidst a pile of old bones and torn fabric, lay a dusty, leather-bound book. Its cover was adorned with the same twisting symbols. With trembling hands, Caleb took the book and opened it. The pages were filled with entries in a spidery script dating back centuries. They told of a pact made by the Harper family with a shadowy entity, an agreement sealed with blood and bound by the dark rituals detailed on these very pages. As he read, A whisper slithered through the trees, the same voice that had lured him here. It spoke of debts unpaid and promises unfulfilled. Caleb realized with horror that the shadow he had seen was no mere figment of his imagination. It was a sentinel, watching, waiting for a harper to stumble upon this grim legacy. The weight of his discovery bore down on him, the chilling realization that his family's history harbored a darkness so profound it had literally taken on a life of its own. As the whisper grew into a cacophony, Caleb clutched the book to his chest and raced back towards the safety of his home, knowing that the true horror lay not in the shadow outside, but in the secrets it guarded. Breathless and terrified, Caleb burst through the back door of the Harper house, slamming it shut behind him. His mind raced as he leaned against the cold wood, the eerie silence of the house settling around him like a shroud. The book pressed against his chest felt like a ticking bomb, its secrets gnawing at the edges of his sanity. He made his way to the living room, where the embers in the fireplace cast a weak, flickering light. There, he opened the book once more, compelled to understand the full extent of the curse that his ancestors had invited into their lives. As he pored over the pages, the tales grew darker, detailing sacrifices made, horrors unleashed, and the shadowy figures' recurring visits, each one marked by a family tragedy. The realization that his own family might be complicit in these horrors sent a shudder through him. The shadows in the room seemed to creep closer, as if drawn by the book's revelations. Caleb knew he couldn't bear this burden alone. He needed answers, and there was only one person who might help him understand: his grandmother, Eleanor. Eleanor had always been the keeper of the family's lore, her stories of the Harper history filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Now, those tales took on a sinister cast, and Caleb wondered how much she had known and kept hidden. The next morning, under the pretense of a routine visit, Caleb approached her. Eleanor's home was a smaller, less imposing version of the Harper house, adorned with relics of the past. As he sat down across from her, the book tucked safely in his bag, he studied her face, looking for signs of the burden he now carried. "Grandma, have you ever felt like the house? Like it watches us?" Caleb asked tentatively. Eleanor's eyes flickered with an unspoken knowledge. "The Harper house has always had eyes, child. It sees much more than we do." Caleb took a deep breath and revealed the book to her. As her eyes widened in recognition, a mix of fear and sadness crossed her features. "Where did you find this?" "In the woods, hidden in the hollow of the old hanging tree," he replied, watching her closely. Eleanor sighed, a sound of resignation and age. "I had hoped this day wouldn't come during my lifetime. That book. It's a dark chapter of our family's history, one that many of us hoped was closed." She explained that the shadowy figure was not just a myth, but a manifestation of a pact gone awry. The family had sought protection, power even, from forces beyond their understanding. In return, they were to serve as guardians of these forces, a pact sealed by each generation. But as time wore on, the pact was forgotten by many, though the obligations remained, and with them, the shadow. The shadow watches, waiting for the pact to be fulfilled. It grows restless, angry even, when it's neglected. Eleanor's voice trembled as she spoke. Caleb felt a chill as he realized the implications. What does it want from us? It wants continuation, acknowledgement of the pact. It wants what's been promised, Caleb, she said gravely. Armed with this knowledge, Caleb knew what he had to do. He could not allow this darkness to continue to loom over his family, to claim more lives, to spread more fear. He decided to confront the shadow directly to end the pact once and for all. That night, as the clock neared midnight, Caleb returned to the woods, the book in hand. He made his way to the clearing where the shadow awaited, its form more distinct, almost solid, as if fed by his acknowledgement of its presence. "I know about the pact," Caleb called out to it, his voice steady despite his fear. "But it ends now. We will not be bound by the mistakes of our ancestors." The shadow swirled tumultuously, as if angered by his defiance. The wind rose, the trees bending under its force, and the air grew thick with the scent of decay and anger. But Caleb stood firm, clutching the book. With a final determined breath, he threw the book into the remains of the hanging tree, where the shadow seemed to be anchored. Flames, unexpected and unbidden, shot up from the dry bark, consuming the book in a fierce conflagration. As the book burned, the shadow screamed, a sound not of this world, before dissipating into the ether, released at last from its earthly tether. Exhausted and relieved, Caleb watched as the fire died down, the first hints of dawn painting the sky. The woods felt different now, lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. Returning home, the house too seemed just a house, stripped of its ominous watchfulness. Caleb knew that the battle was over, but the war with the darkness would leave its scars for a long time. Yet for the first time in many nights, he slept peacefully, no longer watched, no longer haunted.
If you enjoyed this chilling story, let us know by smashing that like button. We upload new spine-tingling tales every week, so subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback shapes our future uploads. Stay spooky, and we'll see you in the next video.